Hey everyone and welcome back to today's video. Today's video is going to be my November reading wrap up. In the month of November I read 7 books. 4 of those books were audiobooks and they just happened to be Agatha Christie books because I'm still a little bit obsessed. And then the rest were actually all, well, they were all ebooks. They aren't all NetGalley releases. I think maybe only one of them is, and the other 2 books, no sorry, 2 of them are. And one is a poetry collection that I bought. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the Agatha Christie books that I listened to. Hey guys, editing Sandra here. So I'm just editing this video and I realised that actually in the month of November I read 9 books. I forgot I read the other 2 books because they are part of a huge chunky book that is a collection of 4 books. So I just always look at my Goodreads when I'm editing videos when I'm filming my wrap-ups to see what I've read. So it wouldn't have shown up because I haven't completed it. So I haven't spoken about it in this video. What I've actually now done is I've also edited out 2 of the other books that I read in November, and I will basically film myself talking about the other 2 books I read in November and add the other 2 books in. 1, because this video is getting kind of long, and then 2, because it just makes the other video have a bit more substance. So back to Sandra. I'm actually wearing the exact same jumper in that video, but yeah, I thought I would just slip this in. So the first book that I finished and completed was Murder on the Orient Express, and I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I actually really liked this book in the end. I just kind of felt like the conclusion, the pilot, was a bit simple. But Murder on the Orient, Murder on the Orient Express, I think is actually very well known by most people. I'm just the person that just, always not been into it. And I really want to watch that recent adaptation that was made, I think it was last year or the year before. It's got like Johnny Depp and all the other people in it, and I know they're going to do Death on the Nile as well, so I'm definitely going to be like looking into that. But Murder on the Orient Express is about the murder of a man named Samuel. I feel like his second name is Richetti. I don't know, maybe that's his, and basically this murder takes place on a train, and so you're trying to find out who the murderer is. This book is from the Poirot series, so I'm going to butcher it again, but it's from that series. So he happens to be travelling on this train. This train is travelling through Europe, and I think it happens to stop in maybe like Yugoslavia or something like that, and there's a snowdrift, which I assume is like snow blocking the path. So they're held there for a while, and whilst that's happening, like a murder is discovered. So it's all basically about Poirot trying to find out who committed this murder, because the story is either someone got on the train, committed the murder and left, or it was someone on the train. And this one is particularly interesting in terms of the other ones that I've read, because the more and more you dive into the story, the more and more it doesn't make sense. And whereas a lot of them, you start to untangle some of the webs that are being woven. In this one, it doesn't, and I just don't think as a reader anyone could have ever sort of connected any of this together, but I thought it was nicely done. I'm one of those people in terms of justice, like in terms of how justice was sort of served here, I'm very happy with this, and this is a book that sort of revealed Poirot's like morals and ethics and stuff like that. And he's very much a man of a person has to go to prison, has to be recognised for their crimes, but something a little bit different happens in this book. It's really hard to give away anything more in this book because it would completely derail the plot for you. But yes, murder on a train, and just the unveiling of who committed the murder and why. I think the why was very interesting, and I think it's something that a lot of people reading could probably sympathise with. The next book that I happened to read by Agatha Christie or listen to was Murder on the Links. This book, again, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. This book is about the murder that takes place in, I think it is France, or is it Spain? Yes, this murder takes place in France. So we have Poirot and Hastings makes a return, and they are summoned to France by someone who is really worried that he's about to be murdered, and by the time they get there he has already been murdered. So the story sort of starts from there. He is found stabbed face down in a golf course, which is, I think, the golf course that's actually is like basically next to his place. Like, this is what he was building. And again, obviously with these stories it's always a whodunit. There are loads of red herrings in here, as you would expect, but there are also loads of like other little things that don't make sense. The story that is being told to Poirot and the police is that they tied the wife up, they took the man out, and it was basically a robbery, and it's a robbery gone wrong. But, you know, some more digging and some more uncovering finds that that's probably not the case. And I think in this book as well, I like that there are some shocks in there for the families as well as some shocks in there for the readers. I think that added another element to the book. Again, can't really go into it without spoiling the story, but there's so many things, like, you know, he's found dead in a really long overcoat, and Poirot's really concerned. He's like, why would he be wearing an overcoat, especially one that doesn't fit him? There are just so many little tangents that Poirot goes over in this book. There is also another inspector who I think hails from France, maybe? Yes, he is also, well, no, he comes from France. Poirot is Belgian, but there's a little bit of rivalry there because he's trying to just be like, oh, Poirot, you're old, that you don't know anything, us young guys know the new tactics and things like that. And then there's some commentary from Hastings, which is really funny because he is great. As usual, he's not even really good at actually, you know, deducting anything or just helping Poirot, but, you know, he's there for the amusement, I guess. And yeah, I enjoyed this. It wasn't the best one. I think it was just really the story and, you know, sort of what it ended up being about. I was a bit like, I'm not really here for this. And then again, like I spoke in the other one, how I view justice, and I guess it's really different from how you view justice in stories to real life, but they're kind of parallel. But yeah, justice in this I don't feel like was served for me. They're not the endings that I ever hope to get, but they happen sometimes. The next book I read was Death on the Nile. Again, listen to, I keep saying read, but whatever. It's Death on the Nile, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because, yes, for juicy sort of things, I'm all here for that sort of high society gossip and, I don't know, all the juicy things happening. I felt like this story was good because it obviously had the whodunit element and that detective element, but then it also was just like a nice sort of like insight. It was a nice like other story as well. So Death on the Nile is about a murder that takes place on the Nile, again on a train. Poirot and some people that are travelling are on this train, and it's taking them through Egypt, so they're seeing like various excursions and things like that. And it's just really funny because the story opens up with our main character Jacqueline, and she is getting in contact with her old friend Lynette Ridgway, and she is bringing a man that she really liked to meet Lynette, and she wants Lynette to give him a job. Next chapter, this is, I don't know if this is too much of a spoiler, but I feel like I'm not giving away enough in these stories. But next chapter, you know, Lynette is married to the guy that Jacqueline brought. His name is Simon, and Simon is now her husband, and they're in Egypt. So it's like very scandalous. There's a good element of like, you know, friendship and friendship boundaries, but relationships. And basically what's happening is you find out when they first arrive in Egypt, Jacqueline has been following them everywhere. So as a result of their marriage, and you know, she's a spurned woman, a scorned woman or a spurned woman, I don't really know, but she's following them everywhere, which is just kind of funny to me. I'm like, I would never have the guts to do that, but go you, because what they did was freaking wrong. And you know, it's really good in this one because Poirot is giving advice to Jacqueline, like he's like, you know, don't go down this path, blah blah blah. Like there's a lot of like humanity in this, as well as the whole murder. And then yes, you find out, and this bit about her being dead is not a spoiler, it's on the back of the book. Lynette Ridgway is shot, and you don't know who done it because you think it's obviously Jacqueline, but Jacqueline has an alibi, and as a reader you know she didn't do it. But it's the untangling of that again, because again, how do you find, I think these are actually on a boat, yeah, a boat, it's got a carriage, but how do you find out who on the boat might have done it? There are other stories going on. There's someone to do with a mother who's alcoholic, who she's trying to hide that from everyone. There's something to do with a sort of jewel thief robbery that's sort of been lurking in the background in England, and that sort of comes to a head on this ship. So there are a lot of stories going on, so I just thought this one was quite meaty, and I liked it. I never really got confused with any of the characters or anything like that. Everything was so straightforward. It was just a real good page turner, and I can't wait to see what like the new adaptation does to it. I am obviously going to look out for some of the old ones, but by far a really good book. The ending and the sort of way it ends and how you find out who murdered her is great. I think I'm smiling so much, it's like that's what I look for in a detective novel. I just thought this was juicy, this was a bit salacious, and I was just like, you know what, two people are going to carry out a plan, yes. And I thought the character of Jacqueline was excellent. Jacqueline's character was excellent, like, you know, she had like, I don't know, she was just a fully fleshed character. She was someone who was hurt, she was someone who was also really strong, and you just see that throughout the book. And even the ending, like how that played out, I get why she did what she did. I felt like her character was very true to the person that we had in the beginning, and her story, the way it progressed was very true to her, and she felt like a real person and like someone that might actually do those things. Other characters to notice, like Simon, he was a surprise. He's the guy that Lynette married. Lynette was a little witch, I'm sorry, like it's really funny because that she's described as, you know, someone who gets everything that she wants, and not in that way that she's super spoiled, but she happens to be 21 and has been like, I don't know what it's called, and this must have been a very long time ago, but I think her parents have passed away, but she basically gets like a lump sum of money from a man in America. I don't really know what the situation was that. It's the first time I've ever heard something like that. But it's all to do with business and stuff like that. And she's a very shrewd businesswoman. But she's very rich. In terms of like her friends, she's there with this massive house that she's renovated. She said no to a prior sort of engagement and ends up marrying Simon. And she gets what she wants. So for her to have done what she did to her friend Jackie is very evil. And again, there's a talk between her and Poirot where he's again talking about that. And it's just that sort of humility and that moral compass that Poirot has, and in sort of trying to, I guess, talk about relationship issues to women, but it not be like a very sort of, I don't know, talk show hosting, but just a very human to human thing. Yes, I really, really enjoyed this book, and I recommend that you give it a lesson or you read it, because I really liked it. I felt like it had so much more depth than a lot of the other stories that I've read. The next book I read was The Big Four. Again, another book featuring Poirot. This was by far my least favourite book that I think I've listened to so far. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars and it just wasn't for me. I think this one has got a bit more of a spy element in it. Essentially, Poirot is now going after gangs. But this is not like, a street gang or hood gang or anything like that. It's more a worldwide mastermind sort of gang thing going on. But basically a man ends up in Poirot's door, can't speak, doesn't say anything, he I think looks really ill and things like that. They manage to put him into a room. When he's able to speak, like he's not very coherent, but I think he ends up saying something about the number 4, and it just leads down the line of Poirot being like to people, have you heard about the Big Four? And it just turns out the Big Four is a group of 4 like really super intelligent people or like rich people, and one of them is a scientist, and there's a sort of plot of something that she has that's really valuable. And honestly, it's not very interesting. It's basically him trying to get one step ahead of them whilst they're also trying to get one step ahead of him. They end up like basically capturing Hastings and framing Hastings to sort of get Poirot to come to them. But of course, like, we know Poirot is our great detective, so he's got everything figured out. I just didn't really feel there was much substance to this story. It just very much did feel like a spy fiction novel kind of thing, and I'm just not really that interested. It didn't seem like as well that it was very clear what they were planning to do. Maybe I missed that in my sort of skipping through the pages very quickly, but there just wasn't a sort of clear end goal. And it just felt quite devoid from what he usually goes after. And I don't know, in this one, I would like to say it showed a bit more of like that sort of, I don't know, male arrogance of, I can outsmart you. There was a lot of that in this one. Whereas Poirot is quite like a boastful person. I don't know, because of how like images I've seen of him, I don't take it too seriously, but in this one, you really felt like it was a case of man be man, and he was gonna outsmart this person. So yeah, it takes you on a ride. There's kidnappings, there's double crossings, there's blackmail. It's got it all in there, but I just felt like it felt really flat. But yeah, so those are the 4 Agatha Christie novels that I listened to. I think I'm trying to just remember who the narrator is. I'll put it across the screen because I think the main one is one other guy, and then it sort of interchanges. I listened to this on the Scribd app, so I just listen to whatever they have available there. The next book I read, I'm going to be really brief on, because I gave this a 1 out of 5 stars, and this is a poetry collection. I didn't really like this poetry collection. I just thought it was very, very basic. I just couldn't understand why I was reading a lot of it. Like, I was just doing a lot of eye rolling through the whole book, and I feel so bad, but I really was. This book is essentially a collection of sentences and pictures, just really basic sentences and really basic pictures. I think there was one poem that I liked, and that was just because I was basing it on the fact that I really hated the rest. There were random bits of handwriting in this, and like, I think it was actually typed, you know, but it's made to look like handwriting. But they were really hard to read on the Kindle, and I got halfway through and I was just like, no, I'm not going to keep on reading this, I'm not interested in this book. There was one bit in the book that really got me, and I'm just like, maybe this is just me being really like not seeing the metaphor in this, but there was a sentence that said a 4-horse apocalypse, and I was just like, I don't understand what that means, because horses have 4 legs, so I don't understand what the need for a 4-horsed meant. I just, like, I don't know. I think the 4 is obviously trying to symbolize how, like, becoming that apocalypse was, how strong it was, but I was just a bit like, could have just used a different animal and added the number in front of it. By that point, like, it was 97% left in the Kindle, so I was like, do you know what, screw it, I'm gonna keep on reading this. But honestly, if that had been like in like the first 10%, I would have just not thrown my Kindle out the window, but I would have stopped reading the book. But I was like, I don't know, I'm probably being really dumb, but a 4-horsed apocalypse, what does that mean? Like, I'm trying to conjure up the imagery and I'm just like, you lost me. So honestly, was not a fan of that book at all. So yes, that has been my November. That has been my November read. It's been varied. I think one thing I'm aware of is that I haven't picked up a physical book, which means I haven't been reading the books that I have. I have got a bunch of books from NetGalley that I sort of requested, so I'm going to get through some of those and try and read some of the books on my shelf. But guys, we're like into December now, so it's going to be like the end of the year before we know it. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to talk to me about any of the books that I mentioned, please just do leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I will catch you in another video. Bye!